Imagine a room where every world leader sits down, from Washington to Beijing, Berlin to Riyadh, and unanimously agrees the slate must be wiped clean. 300 trillion of global debt gone. Mortgages, sovereign bonds, IMF loans erased or converted into something new. On the surface, it feels impossible. Debtor nations want relief, creditor nations want repayment. Yet history and mathematics suggest that one day, a global debt jubilee may not just be possible but unavoidable. The real question is, what would make all countries agree? Crisis that spares no one. The first ingredient is pain, not isolated defaults in Argentina or Greece, but a crisis so widespread that even the most powerful economies are dragged under. Imagine the US struggling with unsustainable deficits, Japan facing unpayable debt to GDP, China's property bubble imploding, and Europe's southern nations drowning in bond yields. When debt collapses at this scale, creditors suffer alongside debtors. Defaults cascade through banks and pension funds across borders. At that point, coordinated action is no longer about generosity, it's about survival. A global jubilee becomes the firewall against systemic collapse, softening the blow for creditors. No creditor nation will ever walk willingly into a deal where their trillions are vaporized overnight. For Germany, China, or Gulf states, straight forgiveness would mean political suicide. The only way they sign on is if they receive something of value in return. That something could take many forms. Gold-backed digital reserves issued by a neutral institution. Blockchain-based SDRs, special drawing rights, that represent a new basket of currencies. Tokenized infrastructure stakes, where creditor nations get ownership in ports, resources, or trade corridors instead of bad paper debt. In short, a jubilee that's not a wipeout but a conversion into assets that still hold value. A neutral settlement layer trust is the biggest barrier. No nation wants to settle in another's currency, especially during a reset. That's why a neutral bridge asset becomes crucial. Blockchain technology offers just that. A global, verifiable system for transferring value without political manipulation. An asset like XRP designed for speed, neutrality, and ISO 2022 compliance could provide the rails for this transition. Whether debt is forgiven, restructured, or tokenized, countries need to move value instantly and securely. A neutral ledger ensures no one nation controls the reset. A new Bretton Woods. The last time the world truly reset its financial system was 1944 at Bretton Woods, when the dollar was pegged to gold and became the backbone of global trade. A modern jubilee would require a similar moment. Leaders gathering to sign onto a new framework that governs trade, debt, and currency issuance. This agreement could include global rules for tokenized currencies, debt restructuring protocols embedded in smart contracts, a shared digital reserve system anchored in commodities or blockchain-based SDRs, oversight through reformed institutions like the IMF and World Bank, updated for the digital age. Only under a shared governance deal would creditor and debtor nations both feel safe enough to commit. Political cover and narrative. Even if the math makes sense, politics will decide the outcome. Leaders must sell a jubilee as a reset for prosperity, not a surrender. For debtors, we are free from chains and our citizens can grow again. For creditors, we didn't lose, we traded worthless IOUs for hard-backed assets. For the global public, this is not collapse, it's renewal and a fresh start for a digital age. Without this framing, no leader would risk signing on. The narrative must shift from loss to rebirth. The path to agreement. So what would make all countries agree? 1. Crisis that spares no one, forcing unity out of survival. 2. Compensation for creditors, converting debt into assets they trust. 3. Neutral settlement rails, blockchain XRP to ensure fairness. 4. A new global framework, Bretton Woods 2.0 for the digital era. Our face-saving politics, leaders presenting it as victory, not defeat. Without these 5 elements, the world will remain fractured. With them, the impossible suddenly becomes inevitable. Closing thought: history says the ledger is always rewritten. The only question is whether it happens chaotically, through defaults and crises, or whether nations can come together for a coordinated reset. A global debt jubilee is not just about numbers. It's about trust, technology, and political will. Do you think the world could ever agree on such a reset? Or will creditor nations cling to paper wealth until the system collapses on its own? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe to LTL Productions for more deep dives into crypto, finance, and the future of money. This is not financial advice. It's education for the digital age.